Executive Director, Nilda Valmores. I'm Kaylee. I'm on the outreach team at my sister's house. And so we're going to get this kicked off. I just wanted to introduce our awesome Executive Director. And here we go. So we'll get started on a little program. And again, this is an Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments.
Hi, everybody. It's kind of a little weird doing this. We're used to like seeing people face to face. And we've done this the past few, in the past year at my sister's cafe, where it was great. I got to meet, a small group of people at a time and answered whatever questions they had about my sister's house. So it was a nice hour that we would share together, and along with a chance for good food or good beverages. So it's kind of weird just having to look at myself, and I wish I could see all your wonderful faces. That being said, we thought COVID or not, we were going to keep doing the work as we have with my sister's house other services. And so that's what we're trying today. So thank you for joining us. And I'm looking forward to seeing the questions. I'm sort of looking forward, a little scared by what questions that might come up with, but we'll give this a go ahead. And I know that one question that came up had to do with our services and our support groups. And so let me just say that our services are still going on. If anything, domestic violence services are more critical now more than ever, including my sister's house services. And I think my sister's house services are especially important because both of the domestic violence aspect and the Asian Pacific Islander aspect, unfortunately, with the understanding of generated by some of the media or the national front, there's been a lot of racism going on with the COVID-19, and so that and its impact on the Asian Pacific Islander community and the stress caused by COVID-19 we're fearful of the stress that Asian Pacific Islander women might be feeling. And so we're so glad that we are able to provide some services to help address some of those issues. So the services that my sister's house has provided before the stay-at-home orders are still operating today. So that includes our outreach efforts and education, because it's important to help prevent domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. It also includes our 24/7 helpline, which is the first point of access for all our services. During this COVID period last month, the month of March, we've had a 17% increase of calls from the year before. And we're a little bit surprised by that because we knew that calls were going to come, again, because of all those factors I talked about, but we expected a lot of those calls to come when people return to a little bit more normal. So we're a little worried about what those numbers are going to look like when people go back to work. So the 24/7 helpline, though, is available for people. And then we also have our shelter, which is usually the first reason why people call, our safe haven. We have a 6-bed safe haven emergency shelter, and we operate 2 transitional shelters. So we have a total of 18 beds. We are fortunate to have received some grants, though, that allow us to help to place people, provide some support, some other housing support. So shelter and also maybe food that we might provide some assistance. That's been a bigger call during this COVID period also. And then finally, we have what we call our Women to Work program. And now with the COVID-19 and then the world situation, our country situation, the Sacramento area situation, we feel that the Women to Work program will be even more important. The primary purpose of that program is to make sure that domestic violence survivors get back on their feet financially so that they can truly live a life free of abuse. And so our Women to Work program includes everything from resume building to interview practicing to job referrals and job training skills. It also includes our other supporter skills, our other supporter services that are necessary to make sure that people can effectively get jobs and maintain jobs. And so that includes legal assistance, it includes counseling, and referrals to other community services. So again, all those services are still operating. Our staff is still working, trying to help. We're probably doing more service on the phone, but our doors are still open for people who really feel that they have to see somebody. So that's in a nutshell, all our services. And you see on the screen below our helpline. We are starting to operate even our support groups virtually, and that includes our Me Too support group, which will be next Monday, and you can find that information in our e-blast, or it'll be, oh, there it goes. Thank you. And so that's for sexual assault survivors, and all our work is for survivors of either domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking, really sex trafficking. Our concern is not what the sexual orientation is or what the gender of our victims are. We serve survivors of all ethnicities. And even though we're a culturally responsive organization, I'm very proud of the fact that from day one, My Sister's House has welcomed folks of all ethnicities. But I'm also proud of the fact that we, I think, do an especially good job helping women who are and men who are Asian Pacific Islanders. Understandably, most of the people that call, kind of goes with the national stats, are Asian Pacific Islander. So I'm going to take a quick breath and put my glasses on and see the questions that are here. Great. Rita asks, how can we help victims and survivors during this time, especially with a quarantine in place? Great question, Rena. There are so many ways to help victims and survivors. Obviously, funds is really helpful right now, so that we can continue to provide the services. And some of those services are including, right now we have on our Facebook, we're just, I think, like, I think the last time I looked, within the last hour, I think we were like $600 short of our $2,000 goal of raising funds to buy gift cards for our survivors, our COVID-19 relief funds. So, which we're planning on giving as food gift cards for survivors. We also, I'm hoping that there might be someone with very big, deep pockets there that we could be able to open up our cafe again, and which helps provide some job training skills and be able to serve our survivors. There's a great picture of our cafe at 455 Capitol Mall. So be able to serve our survivors and other survivors out there, outreach to them and provide them a needed meal during these times. So we're estimating that we would need about $20,000 a month. So the picture on the far right there on my screen, or the other picture now, is a picture of 650 Capitol Mall. We were fortunate to start that up a few months ago. And you might have been part of our mukbang, and sorry if I mispronounced it, the Korean term for a food live cast, as we celebrated our 6th birthday of operating My Sister's Cafe. That's a picture of our 5th birthday party of My Sister's Cafe, because our 6th birthday unfortunately had to be virtually. And I want to do a shout out that currently the church, the table, and Allura restaurant have been providing some meals to some of our survivors the past few weeks, one day a week. And so we really appreciate that. We're also in great need of masks. We know we're going to have to be providing services differently, especially when more survivors come to our doors, returning from the stay-at-home shelter policy. And so we're going to need masks for our clients. We also need masks for our clients at the shelter now, along with masks for our staff, and of course gloves also, and the sanitation products. Now more than ever, those will be needed, and so we appreciate if you're able to secure that too. There are ways of helping we have our newsletter that was going to be going out this month, and if you're around locally, we appreciate that and your willingness to help us put that newsletter physically together in terms of the materials for it. And next Friday in the afternoon, we're going to have a virtual volunteer orientation. If you've never volunteered before and want to know more about ways to volunteer, please join us at our virtual volunteer orientation. Ellen asks, have we seen an increase in requests for services during our pandemic? And unfortunately, we have seen an increase in services. We've had about a 17% increase in calls from on our helpline last month from the month before. So that's usually during the year, we average about 5 to 10% increase. So imagine a 17% increase in 1 month, what a difference that is, right? And again, I'm very surprised that we've already seen that increase. And I'm so glad that we've kept our doors open, because I know that there have been women who've been coming out to receive services. Thankfully, not a lot because of the health scare right now. But the fact that women are coming out just shows me how much need and how much desperation there is. And I'm glad that my sister's house is being brave enough. Kudos to the staff for answering the door and being here, right? Rachel, thanks for the shout out. And we appreciate your support, and Ellen too. Hi, California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. They're a great organization, a great statewide organization, so a shout out back to them. How has our services been being implemented, been impacted since COVID-19? So if you come into our door, yesterday a client came to our door and our staff responded as could be expected, with mask and with gloves on. I think that's the biggest difference. Normally that's not the feeling that we would want to convey at my sister's house, because we want to convey that we are like sisters, that we are family, that we are supportive, and that mask and those gloves do not convey that, right? It also is, the women have loved, the domestic violence survivors have loved being supportive of each other, building a sense of community. The problem with abuse is that, it lives on isolation. The same, the exact cure for the remedy for COVID-19 is exactly opposite what we need for victims of domestic violence. We need to build them another family. We need to build community for them. And so that part's been really hard. Also, the fact that we had to close my sister's cafe was also very painful, especially in light of the work that the cafe did. That also was probably the most obvious impact that I'm so looking forward to, if we can get enough funds and to opening the door back for the cafe.
So Nilda, we have someone that emailed in a question. I'm going to put it up on the screen. Here it is. And it's actually a more personal question. So here it is. Can you see that?
If I could go back and give advice to my teenager self, what would I say? So if I could go back and give my teenage self advice, I'd probably tell my teenage self to not worry so much. I get an A+ in worrying. And I've had that gene, unfortunately, all my life. I'm sure I can give credit to my mother for that gene, for that talent, that special hidden talent that I have. And so I probably would enjoyed life a lot more had I been a lot less of a worrywart. So that would be the advice that I would have given my teenage self. So thank you for whoever asked that question, by the way. Okay, so we'll go back to the serious questions, Kaylee. Do we see a need for increased donations of items and any specific needs that my sister's house needs that can't pay for its current funding? So our Women to Work program is taking the biggest hit right now because my sister's cafe supported the Women to Work program. And so there's definitely every month that that cafe is closed is definitely, there's a need for increased donations towards the cafe, towards really the Women to Work program. I'll also say that you know, until things get really back to normal, I was telling our finance officer, our new finance officer yesterday, that April, May, June were the best months for the cafe because of all the capital events too, and all the meetings that would occur. So we had a lot of deliveries. So it's a little scary, not going to lie, in terms of the cafe stuff. My sister's house also had would have our gala, which is a lot of fun. So the good news is we've rescheduled, we've postponed it till August 24th. And keep your fingers crossed, everybody, that will be more back to normal then, so that we can actually do it in person. If you haven't gone before, it is so much fun. It's fun watching Christopher Cabaldon as a great singing and dancing talent, a great sense of humor, and he just does a fabulous job as our MC. And we have different community folks come out, you know, who are civic leaders or business leaders or state leaders, come out and perform. So you see this different side of them, and it's just so much fun to watch. And every show, every year is a different show. It's not your typical, as the board members would say, it's not your typical chicken dinner, or it's not your typical Chinese food dinner, right? It's actually, there's no real dinner. There's some great appetizers provided by Bella Brew, but it's more a variety show type. And so, yes, please join us on August 24th. And you know what's interesting is that this year our board adopted the theme for the gala to be, and this was months before COVID-19 appeared on anybody's televisions, that they adopted the theme of Together as our theme for our gala this year. And it's been such a weird, it's been such a word that's been used a lot in terms of, you know, we're all in this together. And I think that really was part of the mindset of the board, was like, you know, together we can really make a difference with domestic violence. We can really make a difference with my sister's house. So Together is our theme. I was originally advocating the term breathe, and that didn't go well with the board, but that's okay. Together is a much better word, and there's a lot more songs with Together than there are with Breathe. So again, I want you to join us on August 24th. It's Monday night at the Crest. So I hopefully that answers the question about the donations. And we talked about the need for the materials, the sanitation materials, the safety materials, and again, we've had more requests for food from the clients. We're fortunate with some of our other grants that we're still able to give a lot of services, a lot of support to domestic violence survivors. last year, you may not know this, but we gave about $200,000 in terms of support, not going directly to clients, but helping pay for some of their housing and utilities and other support that they needed. Thanks, Carolyn, for the shout out. So there's the question of safety planning tips during this quarantine period. So first, for those that are not victims, I think being able to check with that friend of yours or that family member or that coworker that you might be afraid of, that might be in a bad relationship. I mean, that's the, checking in with them and maybe offering that that person, that friend, that sister, a code word so that to call 911 to check, to get assistance to them. And then also, it's always important that the victims and survivors know that they don't have to wait for your phone call, that they can just call 911 and the police will come out and help should things get very bad. And if you have a moment, if you're a victim and you need some assistance, please call our crisis line or call another domestic violence organization crisis line and get the help that you need. Now is not the time to be afraid. Now is the time to be planning for your future. Because this COVID period will end, and we want to make sure that you are safe and you're healthy in all, financially healthy, physically healthy, mentally healthy, and so forth. And the longer that abuse occurs, the more it's going to affect you personally and your future life, and also that of your children. So now is a great time to be thinking about how do you break that isolation and what can be done. Kaylee, you have any other hints that you want to put out there? So, in terms of safety?
Yeah, I think
I'm asking you to find a moment of breath.
Yeah, I think those were good tips. Just to have a safety plan, have someone that is your go-to code word. Of course, that's great. Making sure that you have all of your most important things either copied or together. So that way, if you need to leave and you need important legal documents or, just copies of medical records or copies of things that you think are really important, just having those ready in a safe place. And then maybe, saving money or having someone save money for you that you trust. So that way, when you do decide, you don't feel the need to go back or say like, oh man, I really forgot this, or I didn't think this through. Try to do a really good plan beforehand. Now, when you're ready, you can make a clean go for it and then get services.
It's also important, I think, to have your phone charged, have your charger available. So again, in terms of when you have to leave, you want to be prepared to leave right away. There are probably some things also not to do, right? Like you don't want to be telling your partner, I'm going to go to my sister's house, or I'm going to go to another domestic violence shelter, or I'm going to call the police. You don't want to antagonize things, right? Or you don't want to, of course, you're going to naturally want to just say no more and want to support that, but want to make sure that we don't add additional tension because we want to make sure that you are safe. So it's good to figure out a way to be safe and where to go to be safe. So you don't have to announce what you're planning on doing to your partner. That would be a really big suggestion that we all doing this work would have for you. And I want to encourage you that if you're looking for shelter, I know it's a pain in the butt, I can only imagine, but calling every day, because you never know when someone will have left the shelters, and not just my sister's house, because we've got the small shelter here. But call. because even at my sister's house or the other shelters, if someone leaves, then that bed's available, and so if somebody else calls, they're going to have the bed available. Also note that we have again, we have legal assistance, so we can assist you with restraining orders and are getting those prepared so that those can be filed and submitted. And when the police, if you end up needing to call the police because of physical abuse that's occurring, make sure you ask for an emergency protective order. And again, those are the dates for our virtual volunteer orientation.
Yeah, sorry, I thought I would hop on. Yeah, these are all definitely what not to do, I think, is especially important right now during COVID, just because the tension is already so high. So I think that was a great point. Yeah, so hopefully we can comment if you have any questions, please comment below. They can be any questions. Remember, this is an Ask Me Anything. We had a cool question earlier. I mean, we've had a lot of questions regarding my sister's house and our services and whatnot. If you want to ask, Nilda about maybe her journey with my sister's house or anything, now is the time. Now's the time to get all your answers.
And I just want to say that there are also many things that we probably could have said with regards to safety that we're not saying, in part because we want to make sure that if someone who wasn't very nice was watching this live stream, that they didn't get any good ideas for their work. So how can volunteers still help? Again, attending that virtual volunteer orientation next week is a big help. Always in need of translations on the longer term. One of the things that you'll hear at the volunteer orientation is those that are helping with translations, that we need to have you go through our 40 hours of training, and that the next one will be in the fall, in September. There are things that we're planning on in the fall and next year, and so we always will need volunteers. We could use some volunteer time for that, and also a lot just depends upon what your skills and also what your ability to get out of the house right now. Like, I'm in my car, for example, are like 5,000 envelopes that need to be folded for our newsletter. So if somebody was nearby and was wanting to do that, that would be a big help.
Yeah, definitely. If you're interested in helping fold or put together newsletters, you can comment below or you can email us. And I will happily deliver them to your house. Me and some of my colleagues will do that. Also, and I think another great way that I've been on, since I'm the volunteer coordinator, another great way is just being a really active and dynamic volunteer and helping with my sister's house is just making sure that other people know about my sister's house. A great way that you all can help us is by following us on social media. How you all are engaging with us right now, just share our posts, let people know about us. If you have a really tight connection with a restaurant or a spiritual leader or a community leader, kind of being that liaison and having them contact us, or just providing us with their contact information, we're happy to reach out to them. I know a lot of folks are trying to help their communities right now, and probably thinking about outreach is far from a priority, but of course, because they're doing hands-on work. But if you could help them out and just let them know that we are just another resource in the community, that's a great way to help and volunteer.
Yeah, and tell your friends to think about us for Big Day of Giving. We're trying to raise funds for our transitional house. The national grant that we got, which helped funded that, is coming to an end, and so we are going to be in need of funds to replace that, to keep that in operation. So your support during Big Day of Giving, or your friend support, would be a big help. And Kaylee Kaylee was saying, letting your friends know about us is really helpful. I can't tell you how many people, because of fundraisers that we've done, that they learned about my sister's house, and they may have realized by coming to it, like, oh, they were a victim, and they just didn't have the strength or the courage to call themselves that, and they didn't. And they wished that they had known about my sister's house so that they could have stopped the abuse from continuing and have gotten help earlier. Or for some, it's like, I'm a victim, and now I'm so glad that I know where to go for help now. And so then that process starts. And so I always think our fundraisers, I can stomach our fundraisers, because it's not just about raising funds for the organizations. It's also about raising awareness about the problem. Because if people aren't aware about the problem, they may realize that they're uncomfortable. They may realize that they're in pain, but they don't have a name for it yet, and they don't know what to do about it. They're just living with it all. And so having a name to it kind of helps start the process for healing. And so that's, again, another important facet and that we appreciate the volunteers so that the more people that know about my sister's house, the more people that know about issues of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking, the more helpful it is in terms of doing the work. We really need to build an army of support to combat the problem. And in case you didn't know, you think about the stats of COVID-19, and I think about the stats I remember when my daughter was younger, and she was like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get Ebola. And I'm like, you're much more likely to unfortunately be a victim of domestic violence or sexual assault than you are to be a victim of Ebola. And so, not downplaying, any virus or any other public health disease, but domestic violence and sexual assault are diseases themselves. And there are diseases that we all need to be behind, because they do affect, the stats are is that they do affect, unfortunately, a lot of the female population, but they do affect young men too. And then the other aspect of it is there's that second generation effect, right? Of if you're scarred and then you're dealing with it, and then if there are little ones, what are they experiencing? What are they remembering? How are they bonding with others? So there's that aspect of it too. So are there any other questions about my sister's house? I do want to do a shout out of some thanks, some COVID thanks. We had thankfully, it's Optimus of Sacramento, which I'm proud to be a member of, supported one of our survivors. And just to give you a picture of how that helps, that survivors receive some funds through the Optimus Club because of our connection, or her connection with us, and that's going to help pay for her rent. But more importantly, that helps her stay away from her abusive partner, and that helps her provide a place of peace and shelter, not just for her, but for her child too. So imagine what a difference that's going to make, especially in these times, right? There's enough stress right now going on in the world, and yet we need to make sure our own homes and that we're taking care of ourselves. And so it's important that especially the most vulnerable populations, which often are immigrant women, unfortunately, that they especially receive the kindness and support that the rest of the world has to offer. So it doesn't look like there are any more questions. But if there are, I do want to encourage you to call our helpline, or you can leave a message at the helpline, or you can send an email at info@www.my-sisters-house.org. And I want to thank you all for your time here today. I hope that this was of some help. And we appreciate your support. We couldn't do this work without the support of you and others. And so thank you for being there for My Sister's House. And thank you for being there for our staff. Thank you for being there for the clients, the women and the children that we have the honor of serving. So.
All right. Thanks, everyone. If you have, go ahead.
I was going to say, stay safe and stay healthy.
Yes. And if you have any other questions, we hope that we'll continue doing more live streams like this. So feel free to comment on this post with more questions, even if you're watching the recording of it. We'll keep an eye on it. Again, please feel free to visit our website at my-sisters-house.org. And you can contact us via our crisis line or our office line and let us know what topics you want us to cover. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Kaylee, for putting this together.
All right. Logging off.